The one day of the year that record fans hate more than Record Store Day, it's Record Store Day Black Friday, and the list of all the titles just dropped. I'm going to go through and pick up my 15 or so titles that I think are pretty interesting. Some I'm going to be picking up, some I just think that might be of interest to vinyl fans. Let's get into the list. November 24th, 2023 will be Record Store Day Black Friday, a much smaller version of the Record Store Day that normally takes place in April. I've got to say, honestly, I've been pretty excited about Record Store Day Black Friday the last couple of years because there's just been titles I've been really interested in where the last couple of Record Store Days there haven't been as many. So I have a bit of a soft spot, and I was pretty excited to kind of go through the list and see if anything really jumped out at me. Honestly, not as strong of a list as I was hoping for, but still some titles that are of note. Some definite trends that I did notice. One is that, once again, there's just a ton of cool jazz stuff. If you're a big-time jazz collector, there's going to be lots that you're going to be interested in. Fortunately for me, I have been kind of tapped out on audiophile jazz stuff. There's just so much that's been coming out. I am way behind on releases. There's a couple that I probably will be trying to look for and maybe even picking up on this day. So something that I think is interesting, there's tons of Christmas titles. This has kind of been a bit of a blind spot. It's just people have been buying Christmas records like crazy the last few years. Go talk to any record store, ask them how many copies of Charlie Brown's Christmas they go through in November and December. I like that there's more records that are deliberately being pressed just to kind of meet this demand, give something a little bit cooler, a little bit different. Something that I wasn't as excited about though is that a lot of the titles and their descriptions, they just have no information of the source or who's mastering them. And to me, this is a huge issue because there's a lot of titles that I'm kind of on the fence about, but knowing that they are maybe AAA or that they're mastered by a really good mastering engineer would make me want to purchase them, but otherwise I'm not really interested in them. There's also not a lot of big titles. There's a few that have larger quantities pressed, but nothing that I think is like, wow, that's going to make people go out and grab in mass quantities the way that we have with previous Record Store Days. As well, just a personal thing, I was kind of disappointed that the Canadian exclusives weren't as exciting for me. There's been some 41 records as exclusives the last couple of years that I've gone out and had to pick up. So nothing like that, but otherwise still a few titles that are pretty cool. First one that I thought of note was Charles Mingus Incarnations. There's going to be 3,000 copies. This is an RSD first. This is part of the Candid reissue series where Bernie Grundman has either been getting the original master tapes or kind of these digital transfers of the original master tapes. And some of the copies are really good. I have about 4 from this series. I generally like them quite a bit. There were some people who weren't super stoked about the Black Friday pressings that they did last year. My copies were fine, but some people complain about a lot of surface noise. I gotta say though, this is rare and unreleased Mingus from like kind of his best period, so that is definitely intriguing for me. However, it's hearing that's rare and unreleased and that it's from restored audio. Bit of a red flag. I think this is one where I'll be listening to it digitally first before deciding on whether or not this is a must buy. Next we have Collective Soul live at the print shop. This is a RSD first on hot pink vinyl. So this is a bit of a nostalgia pick for me. I know that this is a rock band that particularly in Canada is still very, very big and very popular, plays a ton of shows and they sell really well. Their vinyl, they kind of were in that weird kind of time when no vinyl was being pressed. So most of their earlier albums have only been reissued in the last few years, and most of them have already sold out and become very, very expensive. Rhino is reissuing their greatest hits compilation, 7 Year Itch. I think that's coming out later this year, so this is kind of a nice bit of companion piece to that. Live versions of most of those songs, a lot of their biggest hits. We're talking about Heavy, She Said, Smile, The World I Know, December, Shine, Gel, Precious Declaration. I think this is something that I actually might be interested in, might pick up. Must own for a lot of audiophile jazz fans, but Gil Evans in 10, 4,200 copies, RSD first. This is going to be done by Kevin Gray, pressed at RTI, and it's cut from the original master tapes. Makes this cool is that it is a mono title. A lot of these mono jazz titles have sold really well and got kind of rave reviews at previous Record Store Days, so I expect this to be a great title. The album was recorded very well, but kind of has that mid-50s kind of dated patina sound to it, where it has a bit of age to it, a bit of funk to it, but the music's really good. Bit more orchestral, kind of in that time when groups were starting to kind of shrink down into quintets and quartets. Very old school sound, but still really, really cool and not overly dated. Next is Joanie Mitchell, the Court and Spark demos. This is going to be an RSD exclusive. This is done by Rhino, 6,300 copies. This is my favorite Joanie Mitchell album, so I think I'm going to be interested in maybe picking this one up. these kind of unreleased and demo things can be really, really hit and miss. Sometimes they sound just as good or better than the versions that actually made it onto record. Some of them were recorded to tape with great microphones. Some of them were different cuts that were done in the studio that are maybe a bit stripped back, different arrangements. Something that I definitely will want to listen to, at least to kind of hear where some of my favorite songs kind of originated. Next is my pick for sort of a sleeper, kind of maybe this might be the big release that people are kind of the most stoked about, but it's Noah Kahan with the Cape Elizabeth EP. This is an RSD first, 5,000 copy on marble vinyl. So this album was put out in 2020. Originals of it go for like well over $100 on Discogs. This is a very sought after album. I'll admit I barely had heard of this guy until about a week ago when it was announced that he was doing this world tour and he started selling out arenas across the country. I saw so many people posting that they were getting tickets. So this is going to be a big title within kind of that really passionate age group that really like to get sort of exclusive variants of records and are willing to spend a little bit more on them. So I think this is one that actually could shoot up in value over the time. Next is a regional release that I probably will have no opportunity to buy, but I thought it was really cool, so I wanted to bring it up. But it was the Konami Classics, 800 copies, limited run. I also love, in addition to collecting records, buying, collecting, and playing retro video games. My preferred system is the Nintendo Entertainment System, and so many of the classic Konami titles, tracks from those games are going to be on this record. So stuff from Castlevania, Contra, Blades of Steel, so much of that music from the games that I loved as a kid. If this is coming out in Canada, this would be a must-buy for me just as far as a cool collectible, but hey, if you have the opportunity to get it, highly recommend it. Next one is a bit of a funny title, but I think this is actually going to be a huge seller. Limp Bizkit with Rockin' Park, 2001, 5,200 copies, RSD exclusive, 2 LP set, yellow and blue marble vinyl. This had previously been put out on CD and DVD. I gotta admit, since the Woodstock 99 documentary came out, I've been on a bit of a new metal kick. I've taken part in my fair share of New Metal Mondays, Fred Durst Fridays. This music, just total nostalgia. It's kind of hilarious, but it's had such a bizarre kind of renaissance with younger fans who love new metal. I see kids with like Deftones shirts every other day. I think this one's gonna be pretty sought after, and I might, if the price is right, I might have to grab one for myself. One that I am really curious to see if more information will come out about, but it's Little Feat live in Manchester 1977. This is done by Rhino. It's a 3 LP set, 5,300 copies. So last year, Bernie Grundman reissued Little Feat's Waiting for Columbus, like one of the best sounding live albums ever made. Reviews on that reissue were just outstanding, and this is from the same time period, a lot of the same songs. It's a longer album though, so like if you're a Little Feat fan, probably a must buy, but this could be just like an incredible audiophile live album, or it could be mediocre. I don't know. We'll see if Bernie Grundman also reissued this, what the source is. Only time will tell. Next is Oscar Peterson, Con Alma, live 1964, 2,000 copies, RSD first, on blue vinyl. So there's been a number of these Oscar Peterson reissues that have been done for the last few record store days. They've been really, really good titles, great sounding. They've done RSD first. This one's on blue vinyl. I'm guessing a black vinyl one will be coming later on. The thing about this one that is interesting is that it's a single LP from one of his best time periods with his trio with Ray Brown and Ed Thigpen. The copies of the other albums that have been released have been 2 LP sets. They've usually been like $70, so hopefully this being a 1 LP set, it'll keep the cost under $40. May consider grabbing at that cost. The album that I think I'm probably most excited for that's finally getting a reissue, it's Piper with Summer Breeze, 1,500 copies, RSD first. So reissue label Ship to Shore has done a ton of Japanese city pop records. They've done a number of them in collaboration with Light in the Attic to do kind of these reissues, but so many of these are albums that came out in Japan in like the 70s and 80s and never were released or even heard in North America until kind of the internet age. But city pop is just like this very like warm, jangly Japanese music that kind of came out in the 70s and 80s, has a lot of funk and like smooth jazz influence. It really puts you in a good mood, and honestly, Piper is just one of the best bands from that genre, and this is one of their best albums. I have one of their albums that was done by Ship to Shore as a reissue. I have a couple other titles as well They sound great. They're either from the original analog tape or from a transfer of them, and they always do them as like a really cool like splatter variant or different color. This one says it's going to be an exclusive color variant, so I'll probably be on the lookout for this one. And if I miss it on this one, hopefully it gets a larger repressing in the near future and I can pick it up then. Something that I'm not really interested in picking up for myself, but I think is really cool that it's being done, and I'm kind of shocked that more of it's not being done, and maybe this is a sign of things to come, but it's Post Malone with the Diamond Collection. 10,000 copies, RSD first on clear vinyl, meaning that I think that there's probably going to be a black vinyl later on, but it's a 2 LP greatest hits compilation. Why more modern artists aren't putting out greatest hits compilation is beyond me. I think this is the perfect time where more hardcore collectors who just kind of want to get a little bit more variety, especially like there's so many well-produced and great sounding on vinyl pop records that are being put out. Like, I would be interested in this and many other from similar artists where this is just kind of a blind spot. So hopefully this is a sign of things to come, that more of these will come out. Because like, I don't know, like a Taylor Swift greatest hits, that would sell crazy and that would reach an entirely new market. Also appeal to younger fans who maybe only own a few records. Lets their kind of dollar stretch further, because I mean, greatest hits albums are everywhere. The songs are usually all good on them, you know them, and they're usually really cheap. So I mean, I think this is a great thing, and hopefully more to come. Another album that I'm only interested in if we learn more about the source and the mastering, but it's the Beach Boys Christmas album, 7,000 copies, RSD first, green vinyl. Guessing a black variant will be coming out in the weeks following it. This is one of the first Beach Boys albums, and the thing about the early Beach Boys albums is they were recorded so well. They sound absolutely incredible. Oftentimes the original and early pressings did not do them justice. A lot of the CD reissues that you can even listen to on Spotify, you can hear just how well these are recorded. Analog Productions has done reissues on a lot of these. If we find out that this one is cut from the original analog tape, I think this is a must buy. Otherwise, probably an avoid and just go get an earlier copy. They're like $5 to $10. I think this will still probably sell really well just because it's coming out, yeah, in November. A cool one, the Black Angels with the Levitation Sessions, 2 LP, DVD, and it's 2,000 copies. Just one of the best psychedelic rock bands out there. This is a really cool set. They're a really good live band. Looking forward to seeing how this one sounds. We have the Monkees with their self-titled album. This is going to be a mono reissue, RSD first, from the original master tapes, and it's going to be on splash vinyl. So the Monkees have started to kind of have a bit of a resurgence. People are starting to admit that some of their music is actually pretty good, just power pop. I think this is going to be a great sounding record. So if you're an audiophile, these are usually not that expensive either, like in the $30 range. So recommended. This is one that I might pick up if I find it. And my last pick is going to be Willie Nelson with Shotgun Willie. This is an RSD exclusive, Rhino, 5,500 copies with a second disc of outtakes and alternatives. I think that there's a number of iconic sort of outlaw country and kind of that old school country albums that are kind of must own in anyone's collection. I think this is one of the best of that time period, one of the best Willie Nelson albums. Finding copies of this has become very, very hard. People are on the lookout for these, and I think this is going to be a good opportunity if you maybe, like me, live in Canada and the Vinyl Me Please version is very expensive. This might be the best option for getting it, and I will be trying to get one. So that is my list. It is not complete by any means. I'm sure in the coming weeks I'll hear about more titles that maybe I missed on my first couple go-rounds, but this is just kind of some high-level stuff that I was interested in or I thought was of note. If there's anything you think I might find interesting, let me know down below. If you love Record Store Day, Black Friday, if you hate it, let me know that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.